So I've made a very good start today on the inks for the Warrior of Light. Now, the recording program sort of crashed because I've spent that many hours on the inks themselves, so like we did yesterday, we're going to look at the after and talk about sort of how things have been done on what we've got so far. Not all of the inks are there because it has been quite a lot of inking so far, and there is a lot of fine detail on this character to do. So this is going to take probably a whole nother session before the inks are done. I really underestimated just how much I packed into this one guy for the game. It's absolutely insane. So first of all, let's take a look at those inks so far, see exactly what we have.
Here is the Warrior of Light so far then. As I said, we've got the inks mostly done. I would say this is about 50 to 75% of the inking I'll need to do. There is still a fair bit more to go. What's really slowed it down is that I've been doing it little details by little details, so I've been doing each area to a finished quality before moving on to the next. So if we have a look down at the belt area, you can see naturally all of this is quite detailed, quite intricate here. So we've got naturally the belt buckle, which has its little bits and pieces on there. And don't worry, these red lines are all on a separate layer, so I'm not destroying my own work. Or at least, I hope so. No, they're definitely on a separate layer, that's okay. So, you know, he's got like little bits of jewels just hanging down from here. Those took a fair bit. If we go up to the helmet, you'll see just how much is in the helmet here. So you've got naturally this line here. You've got the jewels that are in the helmet. It's a lot of ornate detail. I can see why no one ever does a Dissidia comic featuring Warrior of Light, because you would not want to draw this guy panel after panel after panel. There's just too much here and too much to keep track of. He is an absolute Goliath to tackle. It's one of those where you sort of jump in and you're not entirely sure where to start. And if we take a look even just at this arm around here near the abdomen, you've got all of these finer lines of detail that show when you look at the CG renders from the FMVs, so I've tried to capture that as much as I can as well. It's really just this very intricate character, and it's not until you look closely that you realise that this is actually a separate layer to this and sits on top of it. So then when I'm colouring, I'll need to remember that there will be a shadow under here, which I'll need to follow and need to keep up with the entire time. If my light source is coming from above, of course. If my light source is, say, here, then you would get shadows, say, there and probably around here. So you've got these little bits here just where it's lining anything that's embossed onto the armour, and it's just a lot to keep track of at once. The hair, he's got very long, very billowing hair, so it's a lot to keep track of here. If we take the pencils off from underneath, we can look purely at the inks, so you can see now that naturally the legs aren't there. He's legless at the moment. Yep, that's the Warrior of Light out drinking for you. So absolutely no lower body, no actual bits and pieces. What I've done for the shield is what I will do for the sword as well. Instead of inking that manually, I used the pen tool in Photoshop, and then with that pen tool, I actually just did the lines that way, because you get much cleaner, much sharper lines than if you were to do it manually, and you get much finer control over the actual arc itself. And because it is quite a hard object, it does require that. Whereas a lot of things here, like the arm is organic, so the arm can sort of bend and twist, and you can manipulate it in a lot of ways that you can't manipulate something that is rock solid. To be honest, these shoulder pauldrons here probably could have used the same technique, but then I would be using it all over the armor, and it takes a very long time to actually do that kind of thing with the pen tool. So quite simply, that wasn't going to happen. It wouldn't have been practical. As I say, when I do get the next session in, we will be looking at the inks for the lower body, so, you know, putting the legs and everything in sort of here, and here. Well, by the way the clothes are folding, it'll be there, but just trying to make sure now that everything is pristine, because if I've got a bad base to work on when I go to colour, then no matter what I do with the colours, that's not going to look good. So at each stage it really is a case of saying, okay, is this as it should be, is this the best I can do, before moving on and before saying, okay, yeah, I'm happy with this. So we'll, as I say, do another session just to finish off the inks, and then we can look at putting finally some colour down on this thing. In the meantime, if you do have any comments or criticisms, try to keep it constructive, but I would love to hear them. Anything that can help me improve is much appreciated, and naturally there's no point in doing this as a learning experience if I'm not going to then take any feedback or anything like that on board. So if you can provide any of that feedback, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'm really waiting to hear what Randy herself says about this, because naturally, when you're drawing something for someone, I think their reaction is ultimately the most important.
So those are the inks there. As you can see, there is a long way to go as yet until we get this finished off for Randy, but it is looking great so far. I'm really pleased with how it's coming out, and we will get this nailed down. However, that will not be within the next 2 or 3 days, because I now have a couple of days off work, and I'm heading up to Bristol to visit a friend of mine. What I will be doing is I will be taking the camera, and I will be taking the traditional materials, and just basically nicking his internet connection so I can continue doing this and continue uploading. So the next couple of days will be traditional stuff, and you might get a little bit of footage of me and my buddy horsing around.